Hi everybody, welcome to episode 5 of Property Mastermind with Hilary Saxton. Today, got a great chat interview with the amazing Bob Andersen about the advantages of property developing to keepers investments versus just straight investment buying. Bob just covers off on some great reasons why it's a faster strategy and why it's a better strategy. And we just have a great chat in general. So we're going to jump into this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Hey Bob, thanks for joining us again. Episode 5.
Wow, 5 already.
Yeah, ticking them off.
Yeah.
Great fun doing the recording. Although, to be fair, we have a bit of a drama with lighting sometimes. We're getting better at it. So today, talking about the advantages of property developing and investing versus just straight investing.
Yeah, the poor old, I feel sorry for them, the poor old retail investor who's out there paying retail price for everything.
Oh, I hate paying retail price.
I know you do.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah. So basically, whether we're going to develop a property and keep it, or so we're developing it ourselves, or we are going to just go straight out and buy investment properties and keep them
at retail price.
Yep.
I reckon 98% of the market, Hilary, don't have a choice. They just, if they want to buy a property investment, and hey, it's a good thing.
Yes.
You know, we need an investment portfolio, but they just rock up to the local real estate agent or even direct to the developer's sales, display unit, and they just pay retail price.
Oh, retail.
Yeah.
Ouch. I've done that most of my life. I've done a lot of renovating, so I have done a lot of retail purchasing, unlike yourself. You've done way more developing.
I hate paying retail. Like you've seen me looking at the Officeworks brochure.
Yes, he does.
Going through and seeing what's on special. And even if I don't need any photocopy paper for 6 months, if it's cheap, I'll buy it and have it ready. I don't want to pay retail price. When I get there and it's retail price, if I need the paper today, I got to buy it. I don't like that.
We were talking even before we kicked off about when we buy things that are on sale, like what if you buy a pair of jeans and you save $100?
Yeah, they're happy days.
That is happy days. So, why not develop your own property and save $100,000?
That's a lot of pairs of jeans.
That is an awful lot. Crikey.
And that's normal to save 6-figure amounts of money by creating our own investment properties as developers.
Yeah, I think we are stuck in that mindset really of, we don't know that it's possible. A lot of people don't realize that when they do create their own property, they're creating it at wholesale.
Well, I'd go as far as to say even at cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to the bottom of the line.
Yes.
That's what we do as property developers. But, even if people heard that statement, a lot of people tend to think of property developers as, or even property developers as the big ticket stuff, the big end of town, the stuff that makes the, the newspapers, high-rise office blocks and all that. Whereas you and I know that property development can come right down to something like a duplex or perhaps a 2-lot subdivision, and we may build a house on each of those 2 lots or one. Property development for the average person can be a small development, but a profitable one. Eh?
And it can be anybody.
Absolutely.
We have the most amazing community. We work with so many people in the property development space, and we teach education, as most of you are aware. But we work with also one-on-one with some clients in our mentoring program, and it is just such an array of people.
It is.
Oh my goodness.
Like nationality backgrounds, people from all parts of the world, and a lot of ladies, of course.
Oh my God. I mean, just this week alone, or was it on the weekend? Somebody in our community, can I say names? Kaz. I can say names. Kaz, she's, around my age, out there just doing it by herself, bought a property. She's about to knock down, build 2 on it. It's awesome to see every day normal people.
People you wouldn't pick out.
No.
Like, as you know, I cut my teeth in property on the Gold Coast back in the 80s. And, it's pretty wild times back then if you think about it. Property developers in those days, and I met them as a young man.
Did you aspire to be one of those?
Oh, not really. I didn't like the look, but the look was a bit overweight, buttons undone, down 3 or 4 unbuttons, buttons undone, hairy chest, big pendant, big gold pendant, nice. Big gold chain, the old, what do you call them, bracelet, the chain bracelet.
Really?
Yeah, that was the goat. White shoes, big on white shoes.
White shoes are back.
White shoes are back, but probably not the other bits.
No.
And that was, a lot of people sort of carried that forward, that property developers are sort of big, gruff, rough sort of male people. We know that's not the case.
Oh my goodness. So I think what we were alluding to here is that anybody can do it. it can be anybody. Like
Just got to learn how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, even Georgia's over, who works for us full time. She lives in New Zealand and she's actually my daughter, but she has got onto the renovation scene, like just started in property herself. She's in early 20s. And they've started with, started like mum. So she started with the whole, we're going to do a renovation. And then just because the market's picked up right now, they've decided to keep it and do a second one. So they're keeping them. But she came along to our workshop. We've just done 2 weekend workshops back to back. We did Sydney 3 days and then Brisbane for 3 days. And when she came from Sydney, we got home. Next minute, she's looking at
converted
subdivisions.
Oh, yes.
And getting me to teach her at your, Mum, so how does that actually work? And got really excited about it. I think once you realise what's potentially available and that it's normal, she saw the normalness of the people in our community.
Yeah. So she sort of, from the outside, saw people buying a house, and then she got converted by her mother into doing a reno.
Well, that's what she grew up with, so she didn't know the next step.
That's great. But now she's been converted into property developer, so she's sort of almost like, which you can do. You can go from zero to property developer, but now she's got a head there.
Yeah, it's a great place to have your head, to be building or creating those properties at that raw cost.
So that's what it's about. So huge advantage. Like let's throw a number around it. Let's just say that as a developer, you do, could be a duplex. I'll just make up something pretty simple. And let's say each of the 2 units in the duplex was worth $600,000 when it's finished. You think of a retail investor that comes along, because they come along at the end after the smart work's done.
Yep.
And that's okay, because most people don't have a choice. So they'll pay $600,000 for that. We'll call it a unit, right? Why? Because that's what it's worth. That's what they'll pay. And with a lot of retail investors, they're using often their house as the extra security to get the deposit off. So they would have built up some equity in their house, and now they would have taken some of that equity out and put that down as a deposit on the townhouse. So what you end up with is they're borrowing the full price. So they're borrowing the full $600,000 using some equity in their house as to kickstart the deposit. The only thing with that is it's 100% debt. And it could be more, because often they borrow the legals and the stamp duty as well.
So would that be about 110% debt? Or no, 105? Could be.
105 is probably a good number to pick. And so they bought a $600,000 property at retail price using their house or a line of credit or some sort of loan they got there. And now they've got 105% debt. And it probably owes them, let's say, $625 or $630. Stamp duty is different in each state. And so they've now bought a property worth $600 that owes them, say, $630. And but that's okay, because property investment's a long-term play.
Yeah, that's set and forget.
Set and forget.
Yeah,
yeah. And you bought your first investment property when you were a teenager, from memory.
Yes,
18 or something, weren't you?
Yes, yeah, I was in there pretty early.
You paid retail price.
I know.
But that's okay.
It was worth it for me. I didn't understand, and we talked about that this morning before we came on here. People just don't really understand what they could do.
So let's go back to those numbers again. So we've got a retail investor having a debt of $630,000, having bought a property for $600,000. And of course, in time, that $600,000 property will go up in value, and it'll one day, hopefully, not far down the track, it'll reach $630.
At the moment, it would be doing that.
In
Crikey.
5 minutes at the moment. By this afternoon, it's sort of gone on.
It's June 2021.
And it'll keep going, and so you go into that positive equity sort of situation. But think about the developer. Think about what you could do it for. That $600,000 property, as a developer, you can create it on average for about $500,000. So that's what it cost you.
So you've already got that $100,000 start.
Well, and not only that, you're $130,000 in front of the retail investor.
Because you don't have the legals and stamps?
Well, yeah, because there's no stamp duty, because stamp duty is a duty when you transfer titles, typically when you buy something. But you see, you already own it from day one, so there's no transaction that requires stamp duty. So you can keep it at $500,000. And so $130,000 head start on a retail investor.
How many pair of jeans is that?
Yeah.
Actually, let's talk shoes.
Let's talk shoes.
Let's talk shoes.
That's not a lot. I've seen your shoes, and I know what they cost. So that's not a lot of pair of shoes. No, but seriously, $130,000. Like, you could ask anybody the question, how long did it take you to save your last $130,000?
I love that question. Yeah. I love asking people that.
I've seen you do it, and I love it. It's a great question.
Yeah. When did you last save $120,000?
Yeah. And the point is, like, some people never.
Yes. And by developing, it's just.
Yeah. And we're only talking about one side of a duplex.
Yes.
What if you were to keep both of them? You're now $260,000 up on a retail investor.
And remember, like we alluded to, anybody can do this. You don't have to. Gone is the man in the gold
chest with the gold. I was never going to be able to do that.
No.
Because I was never going to be like big and chubby enough. And
although I've seen a few photos where you're a little bit chubby.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe. But you've never seen gold chains with big things around.
To be fair.
No, but to be fair. I have tried, to sort of emulate my heroes of the past by, putting on a little bit of weight. But then I just couldn't do the rest.
No.
So that is a massive advantage in being a property, just on a straight duplex.
Yeah.
And you can learn to do this.
It's pretty easily. And so I think when you open up your mind to the fact that this is possible for anybody to do, anybody can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, and I think we grow up not knowing that this is possible. I mean, you didn't grow up knowing that. I mean, how many developments did your parents do, Bob?
Well, my dad was a spray painter panel beater. He came out of the Navy, and they actually helped him to get a trade, to, if you like, go from the armed services into the normal world. And back in those days, the trade was a spray painter and a panel beater. These days, it's a separate trade, two separate trades. Back in those days, it was one. And that's what he knew. So off he went, and he was a spray painter. And he spent most of his life working for, say, car companies and car yards and all that sort of thing, where I can remember one job he had for a long time. People would trade their cars in. And his job was to make them look good. And sometimes it meant, a bit of panel beating, some spraying, and that's what he did for many years. But, he wanted more for his family than what that job could create. And so he used to paint cars on the weekend.
Oh,
just privately for people.
Trading time for money.
Yeah, exactly. And look, that's what most people do. They just trade.
We think, what do I currently do and how can I do it more often in my spare time and make money from it? And I mean, that's
what he did.
That's all
the
he
only way my dad could make more money is to spend more time working, doing cars on the weekend.
Yeah.
As a result, it sort of kills your lifestyle a bit.
But you had private schooling.
Yeah. So all the kids, we all had private schooling.
Yep.
And we went on at least one, if not two, decent holidays a year. And my dad decided that that's the lifestyle he wanted for his family, and he sacrificed and he did it. But the house my mum and dad bought just after they got married was the house that they had when they died.
And they paid it off.
They paid it off.
They owned their house.
Yeah, they owned their house. And he was very happy to do that. His goal was, and he achieved it, pay the house off, by the time he retires, and then go on the pension.
And maybe that was the way most people thought back then. I think now we are a bit more aware that when interest rates are so low, we're crazy not using that money. And why would you pay your house off when you could use that money? I mean, I had a conversation with a girlfriend on the weekend, and it's not the first time I've had the conversation, but she didn't quite get it, I don't think, the first time. Like, she's in such a rush to pay her house off. And I'm like, the interest rates are so low. Why would you do that? Why would you not?
It's free money.
Yeah. I would be like, she's got a line of credit, which means she can draw down money. Why, if you're borrowing that money at, I don't know, what would mortgage rates be? 2%?
She's probably on 2.25%, 2.5%.
Say she's on 2.5%, and she could potentially use that. She could draw that money out and get. I suppose I'm going more to investing now, but even if you were to use that equity, that money to be involved in a development somehow, you could make so much more money with it. And then when I must have finally got to it, she goes, "Oh, I get
Penny
it
drop.
now." Yeah, I know.
And you've been talking to her
about it.
Probably not in the depth that you did the other day.
Yeah.
You've been more, like, your question is like, why aren't you doing more with your equity?
Yeah.
Not realising she probably didn't understand what that really meant.
Yeah, I wasn't coaching her. So I do work as a coach. She's a girlfriend, and she just called in to have a coffee with me while we were at the workshop. So we were chatting about it. She kind of didn't really know what we do. I don't think it's kind of a different lifestyle that we live, teaching people property development's not your average job.
No. But even buying an investment would be far more beneficial to her than just what she's doing, flogging herself. I think she's down to the last, 40 or 50,000. Yeah. And so she's built up all this equity. It's just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah. And it could be doing
she's got a good job too.
More.
So,
Absolutely.
serviceability wouldn't be an issue. And, what you might even do as a friend that you are,
Yes.
and bearing in mind she's probably not ready to jump into a development, but who knows, is next time you have some product to sell, she could buy one directly off you and you could give her the $15,000, $20,000 marketing fee agent's commission that you had in there, take it off the top for her. That could work in her favour. And you make the same amount of money net because you're not paying an agent.
Absolutely.
There you go. How to help your friends as a property developer, selling them at just below retail, but actually netting the same amount of money yourself. So
great idea.
Yeah. So parents, look, what you've said there, you've compared, like, say, my parents' generation or even my generation. My parents.
Are you saying we're in different generations?
Well, yes, we are. I had a head start on life. And as we all know, I'm going to live forever. So far, so good. But like, I couldn't learn anything from my mum and dad. They weren't financially sophisticated.
No.
At all. And
I just don't think that era really was. Or that would be a really minute amount of people.
Yeah. My dad, if he had a friend who owned an investment property as well as their own house, he would have considered him to be rich.
Oh, incredibly rich to own more than one property. Yeah. And I remember you telling me that they did buy a piece of land once, beachfront, for something really minimal, like $800. And when it was worth $7,000, he just had to sell it because it was just too much money to have in his hand.
It only took like 2 years for
now,
it to
how much
up.
it's beachfront? What's it worth now?
He bought it off a friend.
Yeah.
He had a friend who owned a cane farm who cut up some land that was actually on the beach south of Ballina. The cane farmer just sold it to a few friends at like nothing. Like, I think he paid $800 for it. You know the ridiculous thing?
What?
I got offered it too.
Oh.
But I was saving for my first car, so I didn't buy it. You know, that's a story in itself. So he did. Like, within 18 months, it's gone up to $7,000, and he thought,
I have to sell it.
Oh,
I have to sell it.
I have to sell it, and he did. You can't buy that land now.
No. But we've all got those stories of coulda, woulda, shoulda. But I mean, that's just the era, that mentality.
But people are so sophisticated in their knowledge these days. You know, a lot of it's to do with information revolution. You
but
know,
even
with
university education, we learn about finance now. We learn about money. We learn about investing. You know, we just
usually we learn about it outside the normal school curriculum, but. Obviously, if you go to university and you learn, you know, you can study finance at uni, you can do economics, but you know, the courses that are out there, the information even that's on the internet, just about, you know, even basic stuff like property investing, about, you know, finance, using lines of credit, all this sort of stuff. People are so much more sophisticated now than they were.
Oh, can I just do a plug? Seriously, if you're going to learn property development, you need to learn it off Property Mastermind. As I always say, Bob's a legend, great teacher. But property development, you don't want to get that wrong. You don't want to get that wrong.
No, you want to get it right.
Yeah.
And you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get it wrong.
Yeah.
It's easy not to get it wrong. Learn it properly.
Yeah, from the right people.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I jumped in there, gave you the plug.
Oh, thanks. Wasn't expecting a plug, but I'll take any plug if it's offered.
Why
Thanks
not?
very much.
Yeah.
Considering you're a part of it, it's a bit of a self-promotional plug.
Okay.
I can live with it.
Yeah. So we're talking about, so you were back to talking about your dad who was doing the extra stuff on the weekend. So he was selling his time for money, doing the thing that he used to do to get the extra cash. Whereas now we don't need to. You don't have to sell your time for money.
No.
But property development gives you time.
It does. Like, often people that start in property development might have a long-term goal to replace their job for lots of reasons. Could be a demanding job, could be stressful. They mightn't like the boss. Some people, as we know, who study property development with us, fly in, fly out.
Yes.
They're hardly ever seeing their partner, their kids, you know.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons why people might want to replace their job. Some people just want to make a whole heap of extra money. And the thing is, even a small property development part-time, which is very easy to do, even while you have your day job, you make so much more than you do on your day job for the average person. So pretty quickly, the day job loses its appeal.
It sure does. We often stand back and look at the people, like we've alluded to, they're so different in the community. And there are the different stages, like sort of the early 30s are doing it to replace their day job always. Yeah. Sometimes the mid-40s they've got children often. This is typical, like absolutely typical, but it's very often. Yeah. And they're realizing they want to spend more time with them. Yeah, and they want more money for a better lifestyle. And then the older people have just realised that they probably left the run a bit late and they need to do something about what they're looking ahead to.
And they still can.
Absolutely they can.
Because if you need to make a lot of money in a short amount of time, short of robbing banks and selling drugs, probably property development's the way to go.
Yeah, and because we are against robbing banks and selling drugs.
Yeah. No, we're not in favour of that.
No, not at all.
No, and that's the beauty of property development. You know, for me, I just needed to make money.
Yeah,
because I came out of a car accident. nothing left in the bank. I had to make money and I went straight to the top.
Mm.
I didn't buy a property for myself. I didn't buy an investment property. I knew where the money was. I looked around, I could see it, and I went straight there. Bit of a bumpy road, had to learn a bit by trial and error, but, we get there.
But you've got a really strong work ethic, Bob, and I could actually see you as being driven once you'd made that decision that would be what you're going to do.
Yeah. And you alluded to time, because when my kids, my first two, because they're very close, 15 months apart, when they were growing up and I was developing, I was full-time, I didn't have to work a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
I mean, I could easily run 3 projects, not huge ones, 3, 4, 5, 6 packs on probably 15 hours a week, 18 hours a week, because as property developers, it's everyone else that works for us.
Mm.
And so here I was making extremely good money, putting in 20 hours a week. And so what that enabled me to do while my kids were growing up, because they were very sporty, I went to all the sporting events when they were at school.
Not to mention, but even then, you homeschooled them for a long time as well.
Yeah. Well, that happened too. So but for me, it was a big thing. I'd go to all the sporting events, the soccer during school hours, the athletics carnivals, the swim carnivals. I was at all of them. And a lot of the mums were there because the dads had to work. They're flogging themselves.
You hung out with the mums, Bob, is it?
I did. I did.
Loved it.
And I'm sure that a lot of those mums thought I was unemployed because I didn't sort of say what I do. And they think, oh, here's Bob. Hey, g'day, Bob. How you going? Oh, good girls,
And if you know anything about Bob, he would have been dressed like he was just casual, never overdoes anything.
No. I think back in those days, I did have a European car. I also had a Rolls Royce, which I picked up out of a property deal. So, I used to park around the corner. I didn't actually arrive in that car because,
you don't want to label.
I don't need the ego trip.
Yeah.
And so they, it's just, some of them probably thought, oh, poor Bob, maybe he does a bit of shift work, maybe he's unemployed. And I thought, well, not really.
No. So property
development. The time it gave me to be able to be with my kids and do that, because you could make 4, 5, 6 times what you make out of your full-time job just working part-time.
So then back to the advantages of property developing as an investment, to keep property investments. At what point have you noticed over time that people keep them as investments versus just moving on and selling them?
That's a good question. And you know what? It depends on their financial situation when they first start to do a development. As you know, a lot of people in our community, when they start to do a development, they need to build up some capital, some equity, some wealth. And so maybe for the first 2 or even 3 projects, they'll sell everything that they develop.
Yep.
And that brings in a lot of capital. And yeah, sure, you pay tax, but hey, more tax you pay, the better. It means you're making more money.
Yeah.
And so that's what they tend to do for a few projects. And then they're at a point maybe after their second or third where they start to keep some of their developments. By then they might be doing a 4-pack and they keep 2 and sell 2. Some people join our program and start property development where they're already quite strong financially. They've got a good asset base. They've got a good, good income to be able to start on a slightly larger project, and they can start owning property straight away. So it really does depend a bit on the financial situation of the individual when they start. But the point is, pretty quickly you can start accumulating property, and it's just another world. When you can get like $600,000 properties for $500,000 and use that $100,000 profit actually as your deposit, because the bank will say it's worth $600,000. You see, we don't have to use debt as our deposits. The loans are a lot lower. Not that interest rates are a big issue at the moment, but there's times when they were. And it's just easy. You've got that lower level of debt. You've got that instant deposit that you've created, which is your profit. And what it means is that you can build a property portfolio far quicker.
Yeah.
Because the retail investor, they've already paid over 100% debt. They now have to wait for their property to increase in value, first of all, to level with their debt. Then that value has to go up way past the debt so that they can then refinance and pull out some of that equity so that they can then go and pay retail price
again,
and put it again and go through the whole process again.
It is.
But it's
if we drew this, it would just be slow.
It's so much slower, and it's
not
more
wrong.
painful.
Some people
much better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. Bob went to painful. Yeah, it's just so much slower.
Yeah, and so this is less painful because there's less debt. It's easy to do. It's so much quicker. And as you can see, like if you were to sit down and work out how many properties you might end up with from the property developer side, just starting off very, slow and small, how many you might have in 10 years compared to the retail investor, I mean, it would be just so much more.
The retail investor statistics are very interesting, aren't they? Remember, that if you're buying investment properties at retail, I'm pretty sure the average goal is to get to 20, and I'm pretty sure the average Australian never gets past 2.
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't
I
it?
don't have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah,
it's
is
enormous.
Something like that.
The number of people in Australia who have even 3 or more properties is such a low percentage. And that's not talking about their debt level.
No.
Like somebody says to me, I own 6 properties. I think, well, that's impressive. And when you look at it, they're on 80% debt. To me, I think net. Not the amount of debt.
When somebody says to me, I own X amount of properties, I just always assume, you've got a really high level of debt. I don't often.
It's funny.
It's funny where my brain goes to. I suppose I talk to enough people, and because I'm so hands-on I'm straight up with, because I need to know how I can help them, where are they at? Like if it's someone that I'm working with, I need to know exactly what they've got. So it's I have enough conversations to know that most people with property that they've bought at retail are noosed up.
Yeah.
It's not very often.
Yeah. And a lot of people are tapped out. You might own 4
that's what I mean.
but you're
tapped out. Noosed up.
You can't
got a
borrow
noose
anymore.
around their neck. Yeah.
Which is a total another subject you might want to cover.
Yeah, and at least good on people for at least that's just that slow grind
people
that
who are investing.
Absolutely not. We're not against that. Just saying it is a lot slower.
I know. And look, property investment, holding property long term, is brilliant. That's what we do. We just don't pay retail.
Yeah, just create it,
which means we can hold and get a lot more properties. But even after we own them, see, we're using property development as a vehicle to get properties at cost price. But once we do that and we keep them, we're just property investors. We just got a lot of equity in there immediately, and we own a lot of properties.
It's just faster. You can see how it just becomes a faster. I always do the spiral. It's just a faster spiral.
Oh, well, we got the right personalities. We hate paying retail, and we understand what a great asset class property is. It's tax effective. It's a proven asset class, and we want to own lots of it, but we don't want to pay retail.
And what a time to be in property right now. Whoa, so exciting.
Yeah. So even though properties have been going up quite a lot, particularly houses, which is fine. I don't mind that. You own houses, they go up. That's great. Some people say, I'm making so much out of owning my house now the way it's going up, I won't bother about doing a property development, not realising that as a property developer, we get that growth as well, plus we make the profit. It's not like we just get the profit and miss out on the growth. No, we get both. Because if properties are going up in value and we're developing, we're just selling them for more. So we're getting all the benefit of any growth, plus that profit margin.
Yeah.
That is the key. What do you do with that?
So let's wind this up, hey, Bob.
Yeah, I'm getting excited.
I know.
I was hoping we were going to go for 2 hours and move into a whole heap of other stuff, but
we don't want to,
So what's the wrap up on that?
What's the wrap? So when it comes to developing property to keep versus buying property to keep, both as investments, as a long-term wealth strategy, they're both great. Doing it is better than not doing it. But if you develop your own, you get it at a cost price. So your equity is immediately higher. You can use that to go. It's just the journey's faster.
Preach it.
Get out there. The journey is faster. And anybody can do it. What would you say?
Anybody can learn to do it.
Anybody can learn to do it. Yeah. propertymastermind.com.au.
Like number 2, I'll wear that.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this show today, or have you got any final words to say, Bob?
I think you did a great wrap. That's it. That's what we were talking
and
about.
That's a wrap?
And that's a wrap.
No. If you've got any, please share this with somebody who you think might be interested. That would be great. We really appreciate that. And if you remember, I'm going to be giving away free coaching sessions. They should be kicking in now. So you're welcome to leave a great comment. And when we start getting some great comments, I'll pick one person each week to have a coaching strategy session around what your property journey currently is or what it could look like. So we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.